I am a little non-traditional when it comes to looking at a brokerage. I prefer to go from the inside out, so to speak. So I like to find brokerages that seem to align well with my morals and values via, what information I can find. And then I start looking at the agents and I start looking at who matches my style from what I can tell. Hello, welcome to Closing Chapters, Everyday Real Estate Tales. I'm your host, Brittany Fry. I'm a realtor, I'm a military wife, and I'm a mom. Join me and come transaction by transaction throughout my real estate career starting back in 2016 to hear about the highs, the lows, and the unexpected turns along the way through all of my customers. It's going to be a crazy ride, you guys. I am so excited to share the past, the current, and then what's coming in the future. Hang tight for the ride. Join me about being a realtor, a military spouse, and a mom. Can't wait to see you there. Hey, friends, welcome back. Thank you for joining me again. I want to talk to you about something that is going on in my world in real time. If you are following our life right now, our story, you know I'm in a hotel room in Missouri at Fort Leonard Wood while my husband is finishing up a military school here, and we will be heading to our new assignment in North Carolina at the end of the month. So that means I'm starting my business over again. And I'm going to take you along for this ride. We're going to do it in real time, and you're going to see how it looks like for me to find a new brokerage, to start from the ground up again. Will I be starting from the ground up again? All of that, right? So, the first big hurdle is deciding what brokerage I'm going to be with. And this is something that I am going through at the moment where I'm talking to agents, I'm talking to brokers, and I just kind of wanted to check in with you and let you know how that's going and what it looks like for me. I am a little non traditional when it comes to looking at a brokerage. I prefer to go from the inside out, so to speak. So I like to find brokerages that seem to align well with my morals and values via, what information I can find. And then I start looking at the agents and I start looking at who matches my style from what I can tell. And you might go, Brittany, okay, what does that mean? Well, let's look at my current, stage of life. All right, I'm a mama. That's really important to me. Um, my location is really important to me, obviously, like, meshing well with somebody that might be familiar with my location and the market that I will be serving. And the style, like being consistent, building by relationships, having like kind of a polished look. Now, when I say that, I don't mean being in our mama gear on Facebook, right? I just mean as a whole for real estate, like having professional photography for the listings, pushing out the information on the properties, being supportive of other agents in the office. That is what I kind of mean, like that culture, the camaraderie, and just all around a well-rounded business person. So I go to town looking for these agents in these offices, and I reach out to them and I say, "Hey, I am getting ready to start interviewing brokerages. I would love your insight on your brokerage. How does it look like for you on the day to day from the inside, from the desk chair, so to speak? I want to know, what is the culture like in the office? Are there any requirements of you in the office? Is it friendly? Can I walk in and chit chat? What does that look like for you, right? What all have they provided for you? Have they supported you? Is it easy to pick up a phone and get a hold of a broker? All those type of things that might be important to me. Because the reality is when we talk to a broker, they're going to give us the yes answers, right? They're going to give us all of the answers that just check the box. And of course, they're going to support the brokerage as they should. But they may not be the ones inside of it working it day in and day out and seeing what impacts them in certain ways, right? So I really like to talk to the agents first. And then after I've had a conversation with an agent, if I feel really good about it or we've talked about some really important steps and it aligns well, then I will say, hey, can you introduce me to your broker or, the office manager or whomever else I would need to speak to at that point, just to get a better feel for the brokerage and what it has to offer. And I want to remind you, as an agent, this is a two-way street, right? Anytime you're interviewing for a position, 1099, a salary job, whatever the case may be, remember your interview is a two-way street. You need to know how they can be of service to you and if they align well with your moral compass and your values before you ever walk in the door. So this is really important. So it was always a big conversation back and forth. And it's not like what can you do for me kind of thing, but you need to know the full picture, right? And you need to be able to say, yeah, that feels really good, or something's not right here. Like this isn't my jive. So whenever I'm talking to brokerages, culture is extremely important to me. I really want a family, so to speak. I've been truly blessed with both my brokerages in South Carolina and Tennessee that you walk in the door and you just feel comfortable. You let your guard down, you can have a conversation, you can have a personal, conversation with a lot of these folks, which is great because sometimes in real estate, the people within your office are like the only other adults that you're really seeing on a day-to-day basis, depending on what's going on in your world. And what I mean by that is, especially during COVID, right? A lot of people started working remotely and not really going anywhere. So, like, you go into the office to do your work or get things done, and then you go to your separate corners again. You go home or you're going on, appointments or whatever the case may be. So, sometimes the people in your office are the ones that know you best. And it's really nice just to come in and have that camaraderie. In my Tennessee office, I tried to make a point of going by there on my Tuesdays and Thursdays while the kiddos were in school and getting to visit and get work done and just be around. There's a true benefit to being in your office and just hanging out around the other agents. There's always something to be learned. Somebody's going through a scenario and shares it. There is a tried and true lesson of something that happened in the past. And most of the time, most agents are willing to share their knowledge and their experiences with you to help make sure that you don't have that same experience or to help grow your skills. And that's pretty phenomenal. But that doesn't happen unless you participate, right? Now, one of the things that is going on in the background right now while I'm looking at these different brokerages, the two brokerages I'm a part of right now are very much so brick and mortar businesses where I can walk in the office and be there and see people face to face and go to meetings and go to trainings and you know be around to just do work. I have never worked for a cloud-based or virtual, brokerage, but that's a conversation I'm having with someone right now. And the idea is, what does that look like for me, right? I do really thrive on going into an office and having my people. Uh, but the beauty of me being in North Carolina is that I am only 2 hours away from my market in South Carolina. So there's a really good chance that I'm going to be in South Carolina much more and being able to hang out my office there much more. So will that fill that itch for me? Probably, potentially. So if that's the case, then maybe it may not be a bad move for North Carolina. What would you do if you're in my shoes with that? Because here's the reality. I have two kids that are 4 and a year and a half old. And when you are moving in the spring or the summer, it is extremely hard to get them into programs. So we are starting to put them on wait lists and hope that we hear back from them over the summer or that positions become available, like spots become available for the kids. But there's a real reality that unless I find a school for them to attend, that they are mine 24/7, 7 days a week. And that's honestly one of the changes we're going to go through. A lot of the preschools in North Carolina are only for 3 hours, a couple days a week, whatever you choose. I'm not really ready to give them up 5 days a week, but I'm used to having them go to school Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9 to 2. So I usually get, you have a little bit of leeway with drop off time, right? But I usually get like a solid 4 hours of work. Um, 3 hours at school, and then drop off times gives me about an hour and a half maybe to do something. So it's going to be a very big change. And I don't know how that's going to look. So the reality is getting into the office and sitting down and doing work may not be super easy. So this is all food for thought where I'm having to reset my mindset and say, hey, what is most appropriate for this phase of life at this location? The other big reality is that one of the reasons we picked the house that we purchased in North Carolina is because of the setup upstairs. There is a huge bonus room with a little nook out on the front, and that is going to be my office. It's inside of the bonus room, but it's separate. It's almost like a walk-in closet without doors on it, is a great way to describe that. So I will be able to see the kids, but be in my own space and work at home, which is great. So once again, where's the necessity of going into the office? And to be honest, if I go into the office, that means I am toting things back and forth from the house to the office. Um, it might be more than what I'm bargaining for. So a lot of food for thought there. But these are all the things that I'm going through and trying to figure out, what does that look like? Now, I'm going to tell you something. There are so many brokerages that ride on the fact that they are going to get you set up with your first set of business cards, set up with 2 name tags, get you your first original signs, da 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 da. Da. All right, well, when you're a new agent, that's like the flashing lights, like shiny object syndrome. And that is all great and fine and dandy, but the reality is that those items do not cost that much. They are not doing you that big of a favor. Is it a nicety? Absolutely. But if you are trading culture, training, feeling warm and fuzzy, like inviting a family feeling, your commission for just those little freebie items at the beginning, you need to dive deep and search. If you can't afford those items right off the bat, then you honestly don't need to be going into real estate right now. And I know that might suck to hear, but it's the honest truth. You have to have some reserves set away if you're going to jump into real estate. And there's a lot of people that do this part-time at first where they still hold another job and gradually get into real estate. So they are capable and able to do this. I have heard of this a lot with teachers. I know several teachers that have transitioned from being a teacher to going into real estate full time. And that's exactly how they've started. You have your summers free, you have these breaks during spring break and winter break, and a lot of times they can make that work. Or they have the functionality of being like a transaction coordinator or an assistant, and then gradually moving over into a real estate business whenever they start to get some clientele. But as teachers, they have a great client base underneath of their fingers right there, being in a school full of people that might be looking to buy or sell. So, anyhow, a lot of it just depends on what you're looking for. The other thing that has come up in discussion or that I'm having to consider right now is I am obviously licensed in 3 different states at the moment. And I have different brokerages in Century 21 in Tennessee and Remax in South Carolina. And some people are okay with that, and some people don't really care for that so much. And I talked to a brokerage that was asking me if I thought I would want to switch everything over to them. Like, basically, they have a model where as long as they have a broker in charge and an office assigned to that state, then they can kind of hook me underneath of that. And that sounds great, but the conversation I had was I've got my community in both of those offices. They're my people. I've got a support system. And I am absolutely blessed to have the support system I have in both locations. So that is honestly not something I'm willing to sacrifice or consider at this time. And that's okay. Um, don't be afraid to kind of put your foot down and say, no, I like my brokerages in my other areas, and that has no impact on you. So they're just trying to get a bigger piece of the pie. All that's all that amounts to is they're just trying to get all of my commission, like all of my sales underneath of one umbrella. And I understand that. And honestly, on my side, that could truly be to my benefit if it was all about the money, right? Because if all of my sales were going through one company and it all added up to, a lot of times there's a cap where after you pay so much into a company, then you start to get a higher commission or your full commission. Um, so sure, there could be some sort of benefit in that aspect, but do I want to lose my relationships and the great people that I have around me? No, and it's just not worth it. So don't get blinded by the lights. It's so hard sometimes, we are in such a world that is money driven, and I am no different. It is one of my biggest flaws that no matter what I do or how much money I have, it is never enough, and I always want more. Um, I'm learning to try to be a little bit more content with that, right? I went from making a good bit of money to all of a sudden being stalemate to starting to make some decent money again, and now I'm starting over. Um, so it's been a little bit of a roller coaster ride. So that's a touchy subject in my world, and I think you have to remember that everything else will come. Right? If you are in the right situation, you have the right people around you, the right foundation for your business, then the money will come. There's no reason to fret over that. And if you, once again, are in a situation where you are fussing over pennies, a little bit of money here or there, between having a support system and help and training and someone you can call versus kind of being a lone man on the island by yourself, it's definitely worth consideration. I would give up more of my commission any day, all day to have the support system that I do in the areas that I do. I know that's not for everybody. Everybody can run their business differently and be extremely successful. That is just how I operate. So I wanted to share, kind of my thoughts on all of that with you as I'm going through all of this, and it is like super fresh. And the other thing that has really come to light, I know this about me, but when you're talking to businesses, right, it's all about the numbers to some degree. And my heart says, I don't want to be with a brokerage that puts emphasis on production. Um, I will always be a full time agent to the best of my ability, but I run my business truly by referral only. So, repeat customers or referrals from my sphere of influence, whether that be past clients, friends, family, agent relationships that I have, and that's it. I don't do floor duty. I don't do cold calls. Um, that's just not how I run my business. I run it by referral. And because of that, when I'm transitioning to a new area, it's going to take a hot minute for me to hit the ground running. Will I have other sales coming in the different states? Yeah, absolutely. I have transactions going on in both South Carolina and Tennessee right now. But for North Carolina, there's a good chance that it might take a little while. Now, the beauty is that I'm going to a base where a lot of people fluctuate in and out of that may already be in my sphere. So maybe I will hit the ground running, and that would be absolutely wonderful. But I'm going to anticipate that it's going to take a little bit of time, like it did when I was setting up in Tennessee. And because of that, it's an open discussion that I've got to have with brokerages. I don't want them to be pressuring me or upset with me if I'm not producing the numbers that they're used to seeing that I had in the past 2 years. And some people will say, absolutely no problem. You come as you are. And that's how it was when I was in Tennessee. We actually had the opposite conversation. It went both ways, where I was coming in, in the midst of COVID. Um, and there were so many agents in the market. It was just like dog eat dog. And the broker said to me, like, hey, I would love to have you, come on with me. I just need you to know that like I can't guarantee you a lot of business right now. There's not enough to go around. As busy as it is, there are so many agents in this one concentrated area that I don't have like leads to hand out to you. And I said, that's great. I don't want you to hand out leads to me. I work my business by referral and I want to get it from my sphere of influence. And that was that. She was like, "Okay, great." And I said, "But that's the trade-off is like it's going to take a little while for me to be producing. I've had a break for a little while because we made 4 moves in a year and a half and I'm a new mom. So this is all a little bit different and I'm building my business over again." And she said, "That's fine. Just as long as we have a clear understanding." And sure enough, I've done just fine. So that has been amazing. So that's the ultimate outcome, right? But the other outcome is the conversation of, okay, well, when we have a conversation, send me over your numbers. I want to see what production you've done in the past couple of years. I mean, that's great. Everybody should know, what your past is, what you're used to doing, and what you can contribute, hopefully, to the brokerage. But should that be a deciding factor of whether we say you're a good fit or not? I don't know. I don't think so. And I feel like if there is a big emphasis on that, then we're probably not a great fit because I'm always going to be worried that that's like looming over my shoulder. And I want the freedom to come in as I am and build my business. I love to build a solid foundation and then hit the ground running. And that's traditionally what I've done. I've rebuilt my business twice now in 2 different states, starting in South Carolina and then moving to Tennessee. And once I get going, I'm good. I'm like that, I'm like a steam engine train. Takes a little while just to get warmed up and get going, and then once you get into the rhythm and the tracks start going and you're greased up and lubed, you are ready to go, right? So, not quite a bullet train yet. I used to produce a lot more before I had children, and I have learned that right now in this phase of life, that's not in the cards for me. But I'm still a great producer. I'm still doing at least a deal a month, which is fantastic, and that's a lot to offer to somebody if they want quality over quantity. So these are all things to think about when you're talking to a broker. And until you have those conversations or you think about it after the fact, sometimes you don't realize what they're asking you or how they're asking you and what the repercussion is of that or what they might be trying to find out from that. And that's okay. I mean, they're allowed to have, their list of questions, but so are you. And remember, you don't have to dumb down your standards. Be true to who you are. And that is one thing I can say I've absolutely done this time around. I have come in the door and said, hey, look, this is how I run my business. Um, I need you to know this is what it's going to look like. And if you stick with me, then it'll be worth it. And I don't need leads. I don't want to do floor duty. I need to be able to come and go as I please. I'm going to be a mama first, and then real estate is my world. And I will be a team player 100% of the time. I love to support other agents within my office and expect that support back to some degree. That's really all I'm looking for. So that's where I'm at, folks. This is what it looks like to be on the backside of trying to decide what brokerage you should be with. And I know you can say, all right, Brittany, just pick somewhere. Just hang your license. And if it's not a good fit, move it later. I can do that for sure. But the reality is moving everything over again is very complicated and difficult. You gotta like redo everything. And if I'm gonna spend money on business cards and name tags and signage, then I'd rather do it once and stick with it. And additionally, I'm pretty darn loyal. So if I go somewhere, I have a very hard time backpedaling from that and changing it in retrospect. So I would much rather be sure of myself up front and make sure that it's a good fit and that I really feel that I'm going to be okay there for at least the 3 years that we're going to be in North Carolina and be able to move forward. So, if you are looking at joining a brokerage or going through this process or looking to get your license soon, I hope that this is really insightful for you. And I would love to have a conversation with you about what this process looks like and any questions you might have about the different brokerages or what it looks like to be a part of different brokerages in different states and if that's allowed, not allowed, and whatever have you. So I hope you guys have a fantastic evening, and I can't wait to catch up with you this weekend.